From afternoon tea in the UK to morning coffee in the US, welcome to Foodies Across the Pond with Jane Raven and Lisa Siegel. Good morning, Jane.
Good evening. Oh God, I can't even get my words out. Good evening, Lisa. That's not a good start, and I haven't been at the gym.
You've had a long day in the kitchen, though.
I've had a very long day in the kitchen, which accounts for my rosy cheeks, as it's 30 degrees over here, and cooking in a kitchen without aircon at 30 degrees is not much fun.
That's okay. Now for the US audience, that's about what, 90 degrees Fahrenheit?
Ooh. I think so. I think that's just hot.
That's just hot.
And it's very hot for the UK, let's face it. We're used to cold and rain and what have you. And the sky is blue and there's not a cloud. Sorry, I'm looking at the sky. That's what I'm doing. And there's not a cloud out there. It's boiling.
I love that. Well, and we have cloudy skies here today in the Pacific Northwest. So,
well, there you go. You know, the UK's got it all, haven't we?
Exactly.
What
were you cooking up in the kitchen today? What's cooking in your kitchen?
Today, I don't know if you saw on my Instagram post, I've been topping and tailing gooseberries for Britain. So we've got some local gooseberries that were grown literally not even 2 miles down the road from my kitchen. So that's nice. And those go into my big picnic chutney, which is a lot of gooseberries go into there. 4 kilos of gooseberries makes about 20 something pots of chutney. That's all.
Oh,
and then I've also been making the chuckleberry jam for those people out there who are craving a cream tea, because chuckleberry jam is just delish.
I can attest. It is really delicious.
It's really different. It's tart and tangy. It's for those, because I'm asked this, if I had £1 for every time I'm asked what a chuckleberry is, oh my God, I'd be rich. But a chuckleberry, for those that don't know, is a hybrid berry, and it's a cross between a jost berry, a gooseberry, and a red currant. So you got 3 sort of all into this one little berry, and those are 3 quite tart flavors.
Right.
So it's great because it's like a British version of cranberry sauce, really, but it's also jam. So it's
how nice too, because sometimes jam can get really sweet and kind of cloying.
Claggy sweet as well.
And it's nice to have something that is a little tart to kind of bring you back to.
Yeah, absolutely. And my percentage to sugar to fruit is really low. So as low as I can get away with. We ought to do an episode on preserving, you know?
I think we definitely need to do because it's so easy to make jam at home and so much better for you. You can control, like you said, you can control the amount of sugar. It's
and it's so rewarding I'm not advocating that chutney does this, but jam definitely makes your house smell lovely. Chutney is a little bit more of an acquired taste.
It's a bit more of an aggressive scent. It's a little bit more of an aggressive scent.
It's sort of, like Pepe Le Pew in
yes.
Sort of like that. I've got this wafting going on behind me of chutney when I'm finished in the kitchen.
I love the smell of chutney, though. I love the smell of chutney, like in the fall and the winter.
Yeah, nice, really appley tomato chutney, delicious. But there's all sorts of preserving. I heard an interesting one about preserving eggs. Were we talking about this?
No, preserving eggs.
Preserving eggs in salt for the winter. I'm not so sure about that one.
No, well, I mean, salt is the great preserver, and that was what was standard way back before refrigeration. And if you look back in the 13, 14, 15, 1600, centuries ago, that's how they preserved everything. They preserved meats that way and fish that way. And I don't know about produce, but I mean, they did a lot of
protein.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, if you think, definitely salted fish.
Yeah.
But eggs. But apparently eggs, they used to have a big barrel, and they used to layer the salt in the eggs, and that's what the eggs.
Interesting.
I'm not so sure about it, but I'd be willing to give it a go and just see what happens. But by Jove, you don't want to be near when you crack that egg, just in case.
Yeah, that could go either way, I think. I know.
Could be a bit monster.
I always, and I love soft boiled eggs. So I made some soft boiled eggs the other morning for breakfast, but I hate the way they make my kitchen smell. And I always have a candle going because I mean, I love to eat eggs, but especially when you like soft boil them,
They have a unique aroma.
they've got kind of a unique aroma. And I always have like windows open, a candle going to kind of clear out the smell.
The sulfur.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll let you know if I give it a go. You'll probably smell it from there.
Like, I think I smell, my nose is telling me that somewhere Jane,
I think Jane's doing a bit of eggy preserving.
Jane's preserving the eggs.
Anyway, should we come back to the point?
Yeah.
You know, it wouldn't be us without a tangent, but
Exactly. Well, I love going off on tangents. Just, our conversation is like a really fun road that jigs and it jogs and it goes up and it goes down and then banks left and banks right and hold on. It's like a roller coaster.
Yeah. Hold on tight, riders.
Exactly. Well, I'm super excited about today's episode.
Yes. And me.
Super excited. So one of my dearest friends, her daughter's boyfriend worked for a 2-star Michelin restaurant straight out of culinary school. And he has a really, really interesting story. It's a beautiful restaurant. It's called The Modern in the Modern Museum of Art in New York. And I'm not quite sure if they've reopened after COVID, because obviously, as with
New York
all restaurants,
hard, isn't it?
they shut down, and I'm not quite sure if they've reopened. But he has a fascinating story because, I mean, what an incredible experience. He literally got a job at a 2-star Michelin restaurant straight out of culinary school. So it's really fun to watch his kind of progression, because he went to school for medicine, he was going to be a doctor, and how his love of medicine and chemistry have transitioned him to the culinary world, and also like what it was like to work in a Michelin star restaurant. Very cool. And he's so nice, the nicest guy.
Excellent. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah. So shall we then?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Alrighty. So without further ado, here is my interview with Matt. How did you get started in the food world, and what made you want to go into restaurants and cooking?
I mean, my like in terms of my family and my childhood, my grandmother's like an insanely good cook. She cooks like, mostly South Indian food, which is like my heritage. I've always personally enjoyed baking.
Mhm.
I think I'm like more of a scientifically minded person, and I think the precision of baking and kind of just like, you're supposed to put 17 grams of sugar or salt, and you can just don't have to eyeball it. I love that. And so I think I've always been like a good baker. And the third thing is my dad owned a restaurant actually, back in the 90s, and he has no restaurant experience. He's never worked as a cook, he never owned a restaurant before, never worked in a restaurant, but he just did it as a business venture. And I sort of grew up like we had a restaurant, our family had a restaurant, and I would go there and I'd be like the owner's son. And
That's
I
so
don't know, yeah, it was just a kind of a unusual experience. And that wasn't his primary occupation, but we had that experience. And maybe if I could get really good at this, I could do it in a better way and improve on what my dad started, that concept.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And but you were in school you were going to be a doctor, right? Is that right?
I was pre-med in college.
Did you go to culinary school then? Did you switch your major and then end up going to culinary school instead? Okay.
So culinary school was after college.
After college, okay.
Yeah. So I just kind of like, I made this decision that I'm going to do this. And then I packed up and moved to New York City and started culinary school.
That's so cool. And was The Modern your first job out of culinary school?
It was.
Wow. Oh my gosh. And so was there a whole interview process? Like, how did you get the job with The Modern? How did that all come about?
So I think, I don't know if it's like this at all restaurants, but in New York City, or at least how they told us in culinary school, is that there are what they call trails or stages. They call it stages in Europe, where you go to a restaurant and you basically just work as like a helper.
Okay.
You obviously can't work a station or be a prep cook yet because you don't know enough, but you can just kind of like float around the restaurant. They'll give you like little tasks like picking herbs, or and you just kind of observe the restaurant, and you're not really interviewing them, but you're taking in what the experience is like to be there for a day. And then usually at the end of the day, they'll either do like an exit interview where they'll just like talk to you about everything and, see if you're on the same page.
Mhm.
And they'll usually give you, like, if it's a higher end restaurant, they'll give you a challenge, like to make you cook something. They'll give you like a protein and say like you can use any vegetables in the walk-in and just try to wow us with your best dish.
Like Master Chef.
Very much like MasterChef. And I haven't even watched that much like culinary TV, but it felt very much like some kind of game show.
Is that what, so that's what happened then? So at the end of your day, they asked you to cook something for them?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And so I was in communication with somebody from my culinary school who was currently at the Modern, and he was trying to help me like, get in there. And he said they could either give you like a protein, like a meat or fish,
Mhm.
and a side, or they might tell you to make an omelet. And they're really, really finicky on their omelets. It has to be so perfect.
Like a French omelet?
Like a French omelet, like no color on the outside, slightly runny on the inside. And I don't think they had nonstick pans there, so you
Oh,
just have to eat exactly right. Um,
hard.
so I mean, and I was so green. I was just out of culinary school, like just like swimming in all this vocabulary, and I was like, oh God, how am I going to do this?
Do
But
you remember,
my omelet,
do you remember
yeah,
what, so what'd you make?
yeah, I was assigned an omelet.
Oh my gosh. I would have been like sweating.
Yeah. Yeah, I was relieved, but also like I feel like with a protein and a vegetable, you could at least make something that just tastes good. It might
Yeah.
not be to their standard or creativity, but like at least it's just like solid. I know how to cook steak. I know how to cook like,
And protein's pretty
right,
forgiving, like, medium rare, like it's pretty forgiving in terms of as long as you
pretty
don't
forgiving.
cook the heck out of it and like make it, well done or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that they always do that because once I was working at the Modern, I saw other people trailing there, and they would ask me, like, for tips and stuff, and I would be like, whenever you cook your protein, like don't say it's going to be medium rare unless you're sure it's medium rare, because they'll ask you ahead of time, so you can't be like, oh, I meant to cook it well done, even though even though you didn't intend that, it came out that way.
Oh
Because you're
no.
right, it's so forgiving, but it's all about the intention.
Right, right. So you made an omelet. Well, obviously you must have made a really good omelet and did it really well because you got the job.
I guess it was good enough. I didn't hammer it. I didn't make scrambled eggs, so yeah, it happened.
Okay. And so then what
Yeah,
was the job that you were like, what was your position then when you were hired at the Modern? What,
at the Modern. So the Modern is a little bit different than some other restaurants in New York in that they throw you onto a station right away. So you have your own station that you're responsible for a certain number of dishes. In this case, it's like 4 dishes,
oh my
and
God.
all the components for all the dishes. So it's really a trial by fire. A lot of other restaurants, they start you as like a commis, which is like like you just choose small chopped carrots, you chop, clean leeks, something like that,
Right,
all
right.
day long, and you really get thrown in. So I would say the first 2 or 3 months there, I was just swimming. It was way in over my head, and I was like, oh, I can't believe they haven't fired me yet. like
Oh my God. So were
like the
you yelled
yeah.
at a lot? Was there lots of yelling? Is it like, I've heard like it's really like kitchens are loud and there's lots of yelling going on all the time.
Yeah,
High pressure?
uh, high pressure.
Yeah. What was your first station? What did you cook there?
So the Modern is set up like it's 2 restaurants kind of. So there's a bar room,
Okay.
which is kind of like like bar food,
Okay.
more casual, but still upscale because it's like the same restaurant. And in a lot of cases, the 2 restaurants share ingredients
Mhm.
and like cooked components. So we'll like share. So it has to be good enough for the 2 Michelin star restaurant basically.
Right, right.
So it's held to a higher standard. And then and then there's the Modern, which is the dining room, the two Michelin star. But the 2 kitchens are really like they're just like situated back to back from each other, so they're just like you're right there. You can hear service going on both sides. And so I started off in the bar room on the Garde Manger station, which is the salads and like cold appetizers
Um,
station. But my dishes were smoked carrot, Comté cheese, like cut into perfect
ooh.
perfect dice. It was pretty simple, honestly. It's a piece of rye bread,
Mhm.
toasted, and then this like carrot and Comté cheese salad on top of it. And it had like pickled mustard seeds,
Ooh.
Dijon mustard, some French mustard, reduced carrot juice, carrot puree,
Ooh.
and so that was just one of the dishes. And like all those different components, like that's really the difference between cooking at home and I feel like cooking in a restaurant, is that all these dishes, they have so many components. So just to make the pickled mustard seeds for the carrot rillette salad, that process is like like it involves boiling the mustard seeds 3 times. You got to make the pickling liquid, season it properly, cool it down, like just to mix that into the salad. And that's the beginner station,
Not just a dish. It's like all the components that make up the dish. That
Mhm. All the components. Yeah. So it's like, I feel like it's not so much that you can't do it at home, is that it's just not practical to do it at home.
right. Who has 45 minutes to pickle mustard seeds?
Absolutely nobody. Yeah.
Your biggest challenge when you started working at the Modern?
Biggest challenge. I guess it's just the volume. I mean, the volume and the speed, because like in culinary school, you learn the organization, you learn the sequence and how to do things, but then your final exam is you cook, I think, for 4. You basically cook a meal for 4. It's almost like cooking at home. So although it's a lot of components and a lot of things, you're just cooking for 4 people. And when you cook for a restaurant, you're cooking for, 150, 200 people, and you still have to get it done in 2 hours. Like that's the prep time you have,
Yeah.
regardless of the shift. And cooking for 200 people in 2 hours is challenging, no matter what it is. I feel like the environment of a professional kitchen,
Mhm.
just in and of itself, it's so fast paced, and space is such a commodity that, so that like they teach you to be really clean in culinary school and work tight, and
Mhm.
like don't have stuff everywhere, have everything kind of but
Mhm.
in a restaurant it becomes like a necessity. Like you don't have any space. Like you you have to sometimes stack the corner of your cutting board on somebody else's cutting board just to have space.
What skills do you think are transferable for home cooks to take from a Michelin star restaurant and utilize at home? Because you talked about sharp knives. Obviously, sharp
Mhm.
knives are really important, but what kind of skills can you take? I mean, obviously you can't take everything because like we talked about, you're not going to make a 12 component dinner.
Right. I think one concept is like sort of staging meals. So like you can take like the prep of a certain task up to a certain point
Mhm.
and leave it there. So like if you don't have time to do everything in the evening, then in the morning right before you like leave for work, you could like do one thing, and then
Right.
when you get home from work, it's like there, it's frozen, it's ready for you.
Right.
And that's how restaurants like function, is that like you prep for your station, and then you do service, if you're the morning team, and
Mhm.
then you do your lunch service, and then somewhere in the afternoon you transfer your station over to the PM person. And so the PM person looks at the AM person, the station, and says, okay, you've probably sold this 80 carrot rillettes,
Mhm.
and I need to prep for 150 tonight. So how much mix do you have? How much bread do you have? This and that. And it's just kind of like a relay race. So you just keep passing the baton. And so what I would do sometimes if the morning was slow is that I would look at the PM person's prep list. So I had enough for myself, but I would look at the PM person's prep list and say, oh, they're going to need a little bit more carrot mix. So I'm going to like dice up some Comté for them.
Oh,
And
cool. Okay.
so like you could do that for yourself, really. I mean, just like prep something small, like just get out a cutting board and cut up whatever it is, and then put it in a container, and then it's there for you,
Yeah.
and your prep's a lot easier.
I like
So it's like mise en place, like ingredient organization, but in a macro sense, like just doing a component of a dish
that.
first, or a stage of a dish first. Tasting food as you go. So like every component of everything that you make, like
Mhm.
even if you're putting Dijon mustard in a vinaigrette, just taste the Dijon mustard and make sure that it tastes the way you want it to taste. Because whatever you make is the product of the things that you put into it. Like, and I think a lot of people that just like they assume that salt's gonna taste like salt, Dijon's gonna taste like Dijon, et cetera, et cetera. And then tasting it as you go. Like especially if you're making a bolognese or something, you definitely taste it every like 30, 40 minutes. Same like seasoning as you go. So like adding a little bit of salt, adding a little bit of acid, a little bit of this and that, and then not overdoing it, but adding it in layers. It really makes the final product taste a lot better.
You had to pick one dish, like what's your favorite dish that you made at the Modern, and what's your favorite dish to make at home?
Okay. So there's this one dish, and it was on that first station that I worked on in the bar room, um, which it was like a steak tartare dish with crispy potatoes,
Ooh.
and the crispy potatoes, like I had a hard time with it at first, because it's like just like we talked about, like a lot of stages to the process. So you cut, we're just russet potatoes. You wash them, you cut them up, and you like simmer them,
Mhm.
and they're cut into coins about like an inch thick.
Oh.
Simmer it, like poach it for like 30, 40 minutes in salted water,
Okay.
drain it out, and then you scratch the surface of it with a fork or tweezers.
Oh, each
And
one
then
is
you
a
freeze
coin.
it,
Oh my God.
each individual coin. Yeah. Yeah. Even that process takes like 5-10 minutes. And
Okay.
then you freeze it in that like cooked, fluffed place, and then you fry it, and then you freeze it again, and then right before you plate it, you fry it a second time.
My gosh.
So
Wow.
it's like yeah. I mean, it's really it's actually quite simple, but like the whole process and the volume of potatoes that you need because you're selling so many of them is immense. And the first time I made that dish, I made mashed potatoes, and by the time I was finished with that station, the head chef told me that I made the best potatoes that restaurant has ever seen.
That's awesome. So how long were you on that station?
I was on the station for probably 4.5 months.
And then where did you move to? I guess I should keep talking about where you moved to. so,
Moved to other stations, yeah.
so where did you move after that station?
So there's 2 Grand Marnier stations. So I moved from Grand Marnier 1 to Grand Marnier 2, and then I moved to private dining,
Okay.
and I worked there for like 3 or 4 months, and that's supposed to prepare you for like working with hot food because there's a sous chef in the private dining room who oversees everything, but they kind of use you as help for no matter whatever they're doing.
Gotcha. And is that the last station you were at then before COVID hit? Was the private?
No, so then I moved to the dining the modern.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and then I was working there.
Okay.
But yeah, those potatoes I would say are my favorite thing to make there because
Amazing.
and to even like tie it together with the seasoning thing is that I think the reason I was able to make it so well, and it's not even because I love potatoes so much or anything, it's because I was on that station so long and I had so much repetition. I made it every day, and every day I tweaked a little, like something.
Oh, I like that.
Like I changed the salinity of the water. Like one day I did 2.5% salt, the other day I did 3.5% salt. I would rinse the potatoes off twice versus once.
Oh my gosh. That's
And little
really
stuff like
cool.
that. And I just like looked at the results. It was like a science experiment. And every day I made it a little bit better, a little bit better. And I got to the point that nobody could make potatoes that were even close to as good as mine.
That's awesome. That is
And
awesome.
I feel like that just like speaks to a lot of truth about the culinary world is that like whatever you put your time and attention into and repeat it over and over again, being okay with like results that you don't like, but understanding why that happened and then tweaking it and tweaking it and tweaking it. Biggest takeaway I think from working there.
So you went to private dining and then at the modern, and where did you start there?
So there I started on the salad station again.
Okay.
Yeah. So but yeah, that was more intense because I feel like the volume isn't there with the 2 Michelin star restaurant as much because it's tasting menu only and it's mostly reservations. There's no walk-ins really for those kind of dinners. So you by like if you're prepping in the morning, for example, by like 10 o'clock, you kind of know how many reservations you need to cook for. So you can kind of cheat a little bit and be like, I need to make 52 things, and that's it.
Okay. So there's less volume in the bar.
Less volume in the bar, but a way more involved like preparations. So every component is a little bit more. There's just more steps to it usually.
And then did you move on from salads to a different station before COVID?
So then I moved to the other Grand Marnier station in the dining room, and then that's when COVID happened. Yeah. So my next stop would have been the hotline in the bar room.
Okay.
And then I would have moved to a hotline in the dining room. That's just how it goes.
Your favorite thing to make at home? Have you made adaptations to things you made at the modern to make it home, or are you making totally different things at home?
Yeah, I use a technique that I learned at the modern of just brining, 2 or 3% like salt. Brine with honey, bay leaves, garlic, thyme, and then let it sit for 6 hours or so, dry it off, sear it, and then cut it into medallions and finish it in butter. It's so good, so tender.
So what'd you think?
I think he seems like a really lovely bloke.
Isn't he?
I mean, obviously a brilliant chef, but such a nice person.
Isn't he?
That really does come across.
He really is.
Not, so many chefs can be quite obnoxious, can't they? Sorry, chefs.
He's so humble.
But he doesn't come across like that at all.
Yeah, no, he is definitely not at all. Yeah, no. And I thought it was so neat how he married his love of chemistry and his knowledge of
Yeah.
chemistry and science with cooking, especially to perfect that potato dish.
Well, cooking is science.
Yep.
There's a reason why they call it domestic science in school, because it is a science. Do they call it domestic science in America?
They don't. No,
Yeah.
economics. And it's like you learn, that's what they would call the cooking class.
That's what I did at college, home economics.
Yeah. Which is kind of interesting that they would call
Yeah, it
it.
taught me how to pack a case for holidays, make a pair of curtains.
Yep.
Little gems like that.
And I bet you make those curtains all the time these days, right, Jane?
Oh, I'll go and rip off a pair as I speak.
Hey.
That's quite the way to put it, but never mind.
Yeah, no.
But no, I thought it was great, really great. And I just would love to go to New York.
Yeah. Have you ever eaten at a Michelin star restaurant?
I have.
Oh.
I have. I have eaten at it's no longer open. There's a place, if you're ever visiting the UK, there's a place called Ludlow in Shropshire. Ooh. And it's a beautiful area, lots of half timbered properties. I mean, it's really on the sort of tourist route. There used to be a restaurant there with Will Holland was the chef, and it was called La Bacasse, and I was very lucky to have eaten there a couple of times. And I have to say that you don't really get Michelin star until you've eaten Michelin star, and then wow, do you get it. Every mouthful is just sublime, isn't it?
It really is. It's a culinary adventure. It really is. It's just
I'm almost tasting it as I'm speaking, because I can actually genuinely remember the tastes that, of putting in my mouth. And it was so exciting. I mean, gosh, I would love to be one of those persons that goes on holiday and does all the Michelin star restaurants.
Wouldn't that be fun? Yeah, I've had the great fortune and privilege of eating in a couple. There's a restaurant in LA called Providence, which don't know if they've reopened. I hope that they have, but it was just, I mean, similar thing. I mean, just the presentation, like every dish was served in a different, not just plate. I mean, it was just like, a marble slab. It was just the most creative presentation, the most creative combination of flavors and ingredients and cooking techniques. And like you said, I can close my eyes and go right back there and remember each dish and how special it's a special moment when you're able to eat at a Michelin star restaurant, for sure.
Yeah, we've got one just up the road called Penson's, and it's literally about 5 miles away. And every time I've booked, we've gone into lockdown. So I've had to cancel, or it's been cancelled. So maybe I should put that higher on my agenda. Definitely. And I will book Penson's, and I will come back to you and let you know what it's like. We used to have one as well, and don't laugh, because this is a little village very close to where I grew up, about 4 miles, called Titley. Only in the UK. Titley. And the Stag at Titley used to have a Michelin star. I don't know if it still does though, but it does superb food. And that is near to a place called Kington, which is where I grew up. Little bit of useless information for you.
I love that. Well, as the world is opening up again, people are traveling more. It's good to have that information. Sadly, we do not have a single Michelin. We have fabulous restaurants in Seattle, but sadly not one Michelin star. So
do they have to put themselves up for a Michelin star?
We should do a little bit of research. I know that the Michelin Guide was started and created back in, I think, the 20s as a way to encourage motorists to travel through France. And Michelin tires. And then it was free initially, and then I think they started charging for it in like the 30s. And then that's also when they started rating restaurants and hotels with the star system, because there are Michelin star hotels as well as restaurants. And I believe it's quite difficult to get a star, and you can also lose a star. So just because
that must be heartbreaking to lose a star.
I've heard it's heartbreaking. I've heard that it's like losing like a limb if you lose a star, because it's so hard to even get one to begin with. So I think, yeah.
What a job, though, being a
would
Michelin
love-
star inspector.
I would love that job.
I would quite like that job as well. I'll fight you for it.
We can do it together. We'll go in as a team.
Oh, yeah, because we'd be less obvious that way.
Exactly. We could kind of fly into the radar. No one would ever suspect.
Should we write to Michelin
I think we should.
and say, we are your ladies?
I think we should. Well, we'll also link to, I mean, you can purchase the Michelin star guide.
Yes.
So when you are traveling, whether
Yeah.
you're traveling, in the States or in Europe, you can find Michelin star restaurants as well as hotels.
And also because you would obviously need to book in advance. I mean, way in advance. For some of them are years, aren't they?
Exactly.
So yeah. Oh, how exciting! Oh, I've got wanderlust. I want to go to a Michelin star restaurant, Lisa.
Wait, I know. Well, I guess I'll have to go back to LA when I visit my family, or fly to San Francisco. There's actually quite a lot in San Francisco. I know, like,
We've got a lovely friend, haven't we, called Sasha, who is in Hawaii. And I wonder if there are any in Hawaii. Would that give us an excuse to go and visit Sasha?
it could. I wonder. I mean, I've been.
I know I'm clutching at straws here. Any excuse. I'd like to go to Hawaii.
Exactly.
Quite a long list.
I wonder. I mean, I know that. I've eaten at fantastic restaurants on Oahu. I've been to Oahu and Maui, and the Big Island.
Oh, I love it.
And I've eaten at delicious restaurants. I don't know. We'll have to do a little research.
We will. We'll do some research and come back to everybody on that one.
Exactly, because a little tour of Michelin star. Although, you normally do have to save up the pennies for the Michelin star restaurants.
Just a tad.
A little bit.
Just a tad. That's why being a Michelin star inspector would be a really good job.
Exactly.
To
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm very up for that if they want me to do it.
I think so. Because, it would give me a great excuse to come in and travel over to England and France.
Yeah, because there's quite a few over here.
Oh gosh, yes.
Mm.
And then we'll put links below, and we'll put links to restaurants as well as the Michelin star. And feel free to pop into the comments too and let us know if you've had any experiences at Michelin star
Oh,
restaurants.
that would be lovely. Yeah, be great to know that. Or any that you particularly recommend that we should go to, just in the interest of research.
Exactly. Well, because I know there are definitely restaurants I've gone to that should be Michelin star. I mean, there are a couple here. There are a couple here in Seattle that I think definitely should have Michelin stars. So if you've been to a restaurant you feel should be a Michelin star, pop it in the comments below.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Exactly. Well, this has been another lovely Foodie Friday.
Hasn't it? Thank you for your interview. I really enjoyed watching it.
It was really wonderful. It was really wonderful. And thank you all for watching. So feel free to click the like and subscribe buttons below.
My like.
Yes.
Yes, please.
And share too if you have friends in your life that you think would love watching us. Share us.
Who wouldn't?
You know what? Because good foodie shows like good food are meant to be shared.
Oh, God, that was genius. I take my hats off to you, Lisa.
I'm fully caffeinated, so.
Yeah, I'm fully rehydrated.
Rehydrate. Alrighty then. Well, until next Friday, we've got some fun episodes coming up.
We have. We've got lots of fun things planned. It's just what will happen where. We're not too sure at the moment, but watch this space because, we've got lots of love. Oh, that was very high.
Because you're so excited.
Okay, yeah, I am a bit.
Alrighty. Well, awesome. Well, this is wonderful. This is so fun as always. So thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you, everybody.
Next Friday, a new episode drops every Friday on our Foodie Fridays. And we'll see you all next Friday.
Yep. Enjoy your day and eat well.
You too. Bye for now.